Hi everyone, today I'm going to share with you this new case coming from Lian-Li known as the O11 Dynamic Evo XL. Before I begin, I'd like to thank Lian-Li to have provided this case for me to share with you guys, and to Block Soda to have done all the arrangement on the delivery. Let's begin. The exterior of the case itself, starting off with this side whereby you have the whole tempered glass panel, and this is tinted black. At my angle I'm able to see through, but you're not able to. Now this is going to be glaring. I just want to illustrate, so bear with me. See, you can see through the tempered glass, though it's tinted black. Right at the bottom of the case itself, where you have this lever over here, you can just pull this whole fan filter out, and this is to filter off the dust whereby your bottom fans is drawing cool air into the case. So when this is dirty, right, you can just wash it, make sure that it's dry, and you can place it back. Moving on to the front itself, you're ushered with two-tone, whereby this whole section here, this is tempered glass and it's tinted black, just like the side. And if you notice at the center over here, right, or should I say a white strip over here, this is the aRGB strip. And to the extreme right, this whole frame, which is aluminium, has a pattern of brushed aluminium. Okay, let me just show you. See, it's brushed aluminium, and there's a power switch over here. Now this frame itself does not stop to here, it will curve to the back. See this whole section, whereby I mentioned this is the power switch. Now speaking about the power switch, right, you can turn on your system by toggling to the front, I mean the switch at the front or at the side, or even at the center. The system will just power up. So they have done a very neat function about this power switch, which I like a lot. Now speaking of which, right, at this side, besides the power switch, there are additional buttons where you have the reset switch, the mode switch, and the color switch. The mode switch and the color switch is meant for the aRGB strips over here. When you toggle mode, which is M, it will cycle the pattern of the aRGB like rainbow, random, static, and etc. Now if you want to choose a color of the aRGB like red, blue, green, yellow, all you need to do is just to toggle the color switch, which is C. So as and when you want red, you just press till it's red, or you want blue, press till it's blue. Now over at this end, where later I'll show you the cable management area, this panel is made out of aluminium, and it's brushed aluminium pattern again. Speaking of which, right, I noticed that the mesh of this two side over here, it is wider and it is taller as compared to the original O11D Evo. Moving towards the back, you'll be ushered with lots of honeycomb holes, ventilator holes, except for the PCI-E slot. This will provide good ventilation, as in like to push all the warm air off from the case itself. Starting from the top left and bottom left, these ventilation holes are meant for your 3.5-inch hard disk. A well thought design. Over here is a cutout whereby you place your full ATX and to screw them on. This is your motherboard rear I/O cutout. Now speaking of the cutout itself, right, now this is off topic. Be it whether I'm reviewing a high-end case or a low-end case or a mid-end case from Lian-Li itself, right, I noticed something when I glide my finger along all the cutouts, be it this or the grommets or etc., they are all rounded, treated specially in fact. So kudos to Lian-Li, who have done a consistency on the cutouts, be it whether it's a high-end, low-end or a mid-end case itself. All is rounded, which I like. Alright, back to the case. Now you'll be given total of 8 expansion slot, PCI-E expansion slot, and over at this area, this is meant for you to place your 120mm fan, and this is only 120. You can't place 140, whereby you will draw all the warm air out, exhausting from your interior of the case itself. Now speaking of which, if you guys have watched my O11D mini review, you notice that the motherboard can go up and go down based on the fact that they allow to have the back tray moving up and down. For what they have done on this Evo XL, they have included this function, plus the whole motherboard tray itself you can just remove off from the system itself and to plug all your PC components once that's done and to place it back in. So at any point in time you want to do troubleshooting, right, you can just remove off the motherboard tray, which I'm going to show you later. And speaking of which, right, now if you notice that this honeycomb hole bracket and at the bottom, this is whereby you can remove them, place the motherboard tray up and to fill the bracket below, or to place the motherboard down to place the bracket at the top. Reason to move the motherboard tray, or should I say the location of your motherboard, is when you're doing water cooling, right, some of you might have very thick radiators and such, and there are not much space. So what you can do is to move the tray down so that your motherboard BRM, right, will not heat the radiator itself. So that's the reason why. Same apply to the bottom. If you need more space at the bottom, you can move the whole motherboard tray up. Now I'd like to talk about the measurements of this case itself. Let me just turn off the lights so that it's not so glaring. Starting off from the front all the way to the back, exclude the thumb screw, the measurement is 522 millimeter. If you were to include the thumb screw from the front to the end of the thumb screw, it's total of 532 millimeter. From the top to the bottom of the feet is measuring at 532 millimeter. This gap height is of 20 millimeter tall, which is more than enough for air to go through. As for the width of the case, this is 304 millimeter. Next, I'll show you how to remove all the tempered glass at the front and at the side, and inclusive of the metal panel at the back. So first thing you need to do, right, is to swivel and to remove off the top where you have this captive thumb screw. Let me just turn on the lights. So once this is done, right, remove the top. By the way, this is the top. It's pretty wide, I mean the mesh area. Once you've done that, right, now there are two screws attached at the top for the side panel and for the front panel, which I already removed off. These are the two screws, pretty tiny. Please do not lose them. Now, reason to have this screw on them, right, when you're moving the case itself, make sure you have the screw intact, as in like to hold the tempered glass, so that will prevent, you know, when things are fragile, right, when you move about vigorously, this tempered glass might just drop off. Same goes to the front. Make sure that you have this screw placed intact over here, which you can't see right now. I will show you later. So once you have removed these two screws, right, all is needed is just to pull towards you, and the bottom is intact. See, I shake it. Reason being, right, the bottom have this guiding hinge which slot into a place of the case itself, and you can just put it back in. Next will be the front. Same thing, pull it off and to remove. And again, these are the guiding hinge here and here. When you want to place it back, just make sure that you go according to the guiding hinge. Place it back and to pop it in. So this is how you take out the tempered glass. As for the other side of the panel, which is this side, all is needed. First thing, look at this hole over here. Just place your finger here, pull it out, and this will be out. And when you pull this out, right, do not wank this way, okay? Make sure that you glide your fingers to this area. See, it pops out. So push it towards you and not doing this way, alright? Don't ever do that. because you will warp the aluminum. Aluminum is very soft, so take note on this. So once this is done, right, take it out. And again, if you want to pop it back, right, these are the guiding hinge. All is needed, place it back. Align them properly, and to pop it back on. And when you pop it back on, right, do not do only the top. There is one over here. See? So make sure you do all this. Again, when you take out, right, all is needed, pull here. Do not wank it this way. Once you see there's a gap, come over to this end. Okay, pull from here. Then remove. And you will expose the cable management area. This is the top section of the case itself. I do apologize to orientate this way as I have limited space. Now, you have one section here. This is brushed aluminum, and this is the mesh panel at the top for your hot air to dissipate out from here. So to remove this top section, there's a thumb screw you can remove, and you're ushered with a mesh filter. And most of the time this is not needed because it's exhausting hot air, so this might give more restriction. So normally we will just remove this. Now, speaking of which, right, the top section over here you can remove too. It's by thumb screw tool. See? Now, reason for you to remove this top frame here, because this case allows you to do reverse mode, so that instead this is the top, moving to the other end, which is the top, you can put this at the other end. So that's why it's removable. You might have seen some pictures or maybe some videos related to this frameless, I should say without this pillar, where the tempered glass meets the front and the side itself, right? It's a clean cut. Why does this have a pillar? Well, Lian-Li have included this just to support when they deliver the package itself, or you can just leave it there. In fact, this is removable. There are two screws at the top and two screws at the bottom. I'm just going to remove the top screws, as I already removed the bottom two screws, just to show you. So once you remove 4 screws, right, see, this will be seamless without the pillar, and it's quite sturdy, so you don't have to worry that you might accidentally hit it or, you know, break the thing. So when you place back the tempered glass, right, it will be without the pillar. And as mentioned to you, right, the top and the bottom is fastened by 2 screws. These are the I/O port in this case itself. Starting on my left, this is a Type-C version 3.1 USB port, and there are 4 USB Type-A version 3.0 port, and this last slot here, this is meant for your microphone and headphone jack. Now this whole I/O, you are able to relocate the location to this location over here, or to the back. This is the interior of the case itself. I'll start off with the motherboard placement. You'll be allowed to place an eATX motherboard, but there's a limitation. Make sure that the width and the height does not exceed 280mm. If you're going to have more than that, right, then you're not able to mount the eATX board. So make sure that the width and the height is at 280mm or below. Now next, you'll be able to mount ATX, MATX, or a ITX motherboard. As for the fan positioning in this case itself, be it the top, the side, or the bottom, they all have the same configuration, whereby each of this location, right, you're able to mount 3 times 120mm fans or 3 times 140mm fans. Not an issue. As for the rear, right, I made a mistake. You can place 220mm fans, but not 140mm fans. Reason being, right, now at the rear, if you notice, there are additional slots over here. So you can place one 120mm fans over here and At the bottom, another 120mm fan. So total of two 120mm fans. As for radiator placement, be it the top, the side or the bottom, all share the same configuration where you can mount 240, 280, 360 or even a 420. Yes, that's correct, 420. Now for air cooling, make sure that the max height is not exceeding 167mm. You might be wondering, since this case is able to cater for a 420 rad, be the top, the bottom and the side, can I place all three together? Now for the top and the bottom, not an issue. Reason being, right, okay, let me just take out the top tray. Now it happened that this top tray is similar to the bottom tray. You can change them as in, like, you know, place the bottom at the top at the bottom. I'll show you later. Now reason being, right, when you place a 420 radiator, the measurements of this tray itself from here to here is 470mm. So by placing a 420, right, you still have 50mm to play with, be it the top or the bottom. You can shift around. The only thing that you need to take note, let me just put this back, is the side. And why do I say so? Because there is a limitation, as in like the indentation. Take a look. From here to here is 55mm. So that's all the length that you have. Imagine that you place a 60mm rad, right, plus your fan, right, you might hit either the top or the bottom. Or if you choose the thickness to be around 40mm thick, as in the radiator, and you worry that you don't have much space, right, not to worry. The side tray over here, right, you can remove. As you can see right now, this is where you place your radiator. Flip it. So when you place your radiator, right, you will push backwards. Let me just show you. So by flipping this tray here, when you go back to the front, take a look at the indentation. From here, okay, where your radiator is, all the way to your motherboard. This has a total length of 100mm. I mean in depth. So you can place 40mm rad or 60mm rad together with the fans itself, right? You will not hit here because it doesn't go beyond this area. Now, as I mentioned to you, the bottom tray is similar to the top tray. This top tray, I've already taken it off. So how do you actually remove the tray is pretty straightforward. What you need to do, there are two screws over here. Remove the two screws. This is one. Once you remove both screws, right, you will be able to slide this tray out. Push it towards the front and you can remove it. Now this is the bottom tray. And this is the top. I'm going to remove off the bottom just to show you how you fasten. Now to put it back in place, right, take a look at this. There are guiding hinge. There are a total of 3. Okay. And looking at the case itself, right, there are 3 holes over here. Match the hole with this 3 guiding hinge. See? So place it down, put it down, and put it backwards. This is in place. Then tighten the screws to secure the whole tray. Now, as for the side tray itself, this is the side, this is the back. As you can see, the pillar over here. Now, to remove this, there is this thumb screw over here. Remove the thumb screw. So once you have removed this thumb screw, right, press this, and when you press this, you can remove, and you can flip and to place it back. Then fasten the thumb screw to secure this. Before I show you the removal on the motherboard tray itself, just like to talk about the graphic card. Now this is a 4070 Ti, whereby the length is 332, not an issue. Well, in fact, this case is very spacious. It has the length of 470, but it's advisable not to have a graphic card length, be it whether you're placing it vertically or horizontally. Make sure that your card does not exceed 460mm in length. To remove off the motherboard tray itself, all is needed. Now take a look at the back over here. You have a total of 1, 2, 3, 4 thumb screws. Take out the innermost thumb screws. So unscrew them. Once you've done this right, there are 2 thumb screws over here. Now these are captive thumb screws. You don't have to take it out all the way. So once you've done this right, you'll be able to remove the motherboard tray. See, it's out. Now, in order for you to move the motherboard up and down, right, there are 2 brackets, one at the top, one at the bottom. You will need to remove these 2 off, and they are captive by, they are held by thumb screws. Just remove them off. Once you've done this right, you can reallocate the motherboard either up or down. And as you can see over here, right, there are screw holes over here. So this is moving up. Okay, you can move up or you move down. So assuming that I'm moving up to this slot over here, I will need to slot at the back first. Make sure you angle it properly. See, this is done, which is at the top section. Once you got it right position, right, you'll be able to screw in your thumb screws. Okay, this is not in the right place. Okay, when you hear a snap, it's in place. You can fasten the thumb screws. And when you're doing this right, don't forget the back too. So I'm not going to fasten it right now. So once you have relocated your motherboard tray up, see at the bottom there is a hole. So this is where you make use of this bracket to fill it up. As in, like, to screw it in to cover. See, I'm not going to screw it in, just to show you. So this applies to the same way you move the motherboard tray down, where these 2 brackets, right, will be at the top. Now when you are doing this, right, moving the motherboard tray up, take note, you will not be able to mount 2 120mm fans at the rear. You can only mount 1 when the motherboard tray is at the top section, and when you mount it at the bottom, right, you might not be able to fit 2, because this have brought down drastically. So you're only able to mount 120mm fan. So be it if your motherboard tray is up or down, you can't mount 2 120mm fan. Only at default, which is at the center, then you'll be able to mount 2 120mm fans. For illustration purposes, I've mentioned to you that your EATX motherboard, please do not exceed 280mm in width or in height. The reason for it, right, if you're going to exceed the width as in like 280, right, you're going to have a problem routing your cable, which is through here, to plug to your 24-pin header. So take note on this. Another thing is that I deliberately place a 420 Arctic Liquid Freezer 2 AIO at the top to show you that at the top, as mentioned to you, this is 420 on the Arctic, else for the length, right, of the top tray is 470. So you see, I can move. There is 50mm space for you to play with. See, Another thing to take note is that at the original position of the motherboard tray, now take a look at the clearance of the RAMs between the 420 liquid ALO, which has a thickness of 63mm. I am still able to place 2 fingers. So you don't have to worry, are there any RAM clearance for you to place a tall RAM. You can place how tall you want it to be, not a problem, because it's not touching. And if your motherboard tray is at a lower section, right, not a problem too, you can place tall RAMs. The only problem is when you lift up the motherboard tray to the upper section, then the radiator itself, right, will hit the RAMs itself. In fact, do not place any radiator at all, just only fans when you are lifting the motherboard tray up. The other side of the panel, this is where your cable management is at. Now, starting on my left, this is the removable tray which I'll show you. This is the side tray. You can mount fans or mount radiator. Now, if you have a smaller radiator or you have mount 120mm fans, right, there are gaps. What you can do is to make use of these brackets which come in the accessory package. All you need to do is to clip it so that, let's say you populated the fans over here, at the bottom is just holes, so you can cover this just to make it look better at the other end, which is the front side. And also at the meantime, having all the channel of airflow going in or out of the case itself, right, with this area, instead of leaving these two empty. So this is part of it. Now, besides mounting the radiator and fans on this side bracket itself, you are able to mount your GPU, but you will need to purchase separate unit, which is the upright GPU bracket and the riser cable. I will show you how to fix the upright bracket with the cables, having your GPU dangling, or should I say upright position. Now, next will be the center section here, whereby you see 3 with slots. You can place 3 SSD over here, but make sure you place the SSD inside and not outside. If you place the SSD over here, right, you will not be able to close your panel, side panel. So make sure you swivel and to place it over here. And of course, you will need to place some rubber grommets that comes with the accessory package, which I'm going to show you later. Now moving on, right, oh, speaking of which, this pillar here is magnetic. See, it's in place. See, so to fasten this, right, it's just magnetic, as compared in the past whereby you need to screw the center pillar, which is quite troublesome. With this said, leaving this section over here, these are the cable management area where you tuck all the cables. Now there are a total of 3 Velcro stripes. I will talk about the Velcro stripes in detail later. Now moving on to the last section where you have the top and bottom. These two are hard disk cage, and in the past you need to unscrew them to take out the cage, but this new design, right, you just swivel up. See, easy access. And to place your hard disk, be it whether 3.5 inch or 2.5 inch, oh, by the way, total SSD that you can place for 2.5 inch, right, is total of 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Now if you choose to put 3.5 inch, right, it will be 1, 2, 3, 4. And to remove all of this before you attach the hard disk to the cage, unscrew this thumb screw, set it to open. Okay, once it's open, right, you'll be able to slide this out and to place your 3.5 inch or 2.5 inch hard disk. Once you've done that, you can place it back. Now, one thing good about this cage here, right, in the past you will need to feeder with the SATA cable and the SATA power source cable, but for this, right, it's just like a hot swap. Once you place the hard disk in, right, and you clip it on, right, it will be intact, as the cable is being provided as in like pre-installed to these two cages. See, you have the SATA and the SATA power source, which connects to your PSU. This is to your motherboard. So to me, this is good, whereby it's almost toolless, whereby you don't have to fiddle with the cable. It's all routed properly for you. Now coming to the center section here, this is whereby you place your PSU. Now I've tested various length of PSU. Take note, from here all the way to here is 200mm. I wouldn't advise you to place a full ATX PSU which has a length of 200mm. Reason being, right, once you reach here, right, your cables is going to hit all these cables over here. I would advise you place not above 180, which is down here, or even better 160. But most of the time, for huge power supply load that is like rating 1000 watt or 1200 watt, it should be around this area, which is at the 180 mark. So leaving you more space for you to route or to plug your cables, just like the 24 pin, the 8 pin, or even the 12 volt high power connectors on the motherboard, on the PSU, and to route your cables. Back to where the Velcro stripes is, where I mentioned to you I need to show you the details. Now kudos again to Lian-Li. You guys have actually done this just similar way to attach the SSD itself. So you see all these brackets over here, right, the holes over here are for you to angle this Velcro stripes. See, and there's a function for this U channel over here. So let's say your cables are like this, so you can just clip it on. Okay, let me just, and to fasten it, see, and leaving another section, you can just clip the rest of your cables, like your Unifan cables, your the Unifan controller cables and such. So you can make use of this Velcro stripe, because you still have lots of space. Okay, see, you still have lots of space, so we can close the panel. And besides doing this way, right, okay, now, besides doing this way, you can also do it this way. It's flexible. This is very neat. For this upright GPU bracket, inside this package contains two brackets. By the way, this is the side tray, and of course it comes with a bag of screws and such. So how you mount this, right, now flipping to the back of the tray itself, where you can see there are 4 screws over here and over here, and all these are individual screws. Now for the individual screws, right, no grouping at all. It's meant for you to mount this bracket, which is fastened by 2 screws. And as for this bracket over here, now make sure that this side is facing downwards, then this is the upwards. Adjust accordingly based on your graphic card length, then tighten it with the screws over here at the back. So once this is done, right, you need to fit your graphic card here and to screw on your graphic card with the provided screws in this GPU kit. And for this, right, this is the adjustment whereby it will fasten, as in like it will hold on your graphic card. Now this is how it looks like when it's mounted. There are some specification on how you mount the upright bracket, and I'll show it to you on the website itself. Now this tray here, right, with the brackets over here, you can flip this way too when you're mounting into the case itself. Now let me just show you the specification on the page itself, on the limitations and what is possible to be done, as in like upright or being downwards. I mean, it's still upright, it's just that the orientation will be slightly different. The upright GPU bracket come in two variants, which is black or white. By the way, this is official from Lian-Li website. Now, earlier I mentioned about the specification, whereby either you place the I/O upright or downwards. What's the difference? Well, from the top, this is where you plug your HDMI and DP cable at the top, or plug at the bottom, but with specific graphic card orientation. As you can see here, right, see all this model and the brands of the graphic card, be it 4080 or 4090 and such. It will tell you what is the best orientation, whereby having the I/O either facing downwards or facing upwards, or some card, doesn't matter. So it's best to follow this as a stand of how you're going to mount your graphic card so that you will not damage your graphic card. This is how it looks like when you mounted this to the case itself. And do take note that when you are mounting this, right, the next thing you need to do is to place this riser cable, which is on a separate purchase again. And this riser cable is in fact 900mm long, which you can see over here. So one end for you to clip to your GPU, then you route the cable to the back through this grommets over here, then go under and to clip it over here. So it gives you a neater route. Besides mounting the GPU upright, I have deliberately mounted horizontally and take at the level meter. See, it's center, as you can see the bubble. Now, why is this so? Let me just remove off the graphic card and to show you. Okay, graphic card is removed, and what do you see? See this mechanism over here? Now, what this does is when you insert your graphic card, this able to cram your card so that you will not sag. A very wise mechanism. Kudos to Lian-Li again, that you can gauge. See, it's toolless. And this anti-sag bracket, in fact, is advanced mechanism, which is included in this case itself. Brilliant. Just a close-up on the mechanism itself, as I already showed you, right? See? So when you slot the card itself, right, it just bite to the card, and you can adjust the bites. See? All you need is just to press this and to go accordingly to the width of your graphic card, and you will hold. Now, another thing neat about this tray here, which is the rear over here. Now, to remove the brackets of this, right, all is needed. Remove off the thumb screws over here. So assuming I remove this, and this is magnetic, see? So what you see at the front, okay, see? So when you place your GPU in place, right, all you need is just to cram this, and this is magnetic. Then once that's done, right, you can tighten your bracket with the thumb screw at the back. It's a toolless design. Well done. Just to show you the aRGB effect on the case itself, the strips. As I mentioned to you, right, there are two buttons on the case. Now if I were to press M, see, it will change the mode. Now as for the button C, you will change accordingly to the static color that you wanted. As for the accessories, in this case itself, it comes in this box. You'll be ushered with a instruction manual to show you how to do the installation on the case and some of the instructions that you need to take note. It's best to read through this instruction, especially when you're doing the reverse mode. And you have this beautiful box which have the thank you from Lian-Li, a debug badge logo. This is where originally this is pasted on the case pillar, or should I say the cable management pillar, but somehow in this build, right, they did not do that. Instead, they give you an option: either you stick it there or you do not stick it there. Now in this box itself, right, it contains 3.5-inch rubber grommets, and these are spare for the bracket, which I'm going to show you later. These are the clip in the event if your case where you mount your side panel or the front tinted glass or the side tinted glass. These are the clips that hold on to those panel. If this break in your case, right, these are the spares. There are a total of 4. A bag of screws, which is meant for your SSD, your motherboard screws, and etc. Now all this, right, you'll be able to see the legend over here, which tells you all the screws that is inclusive in this package. Now next will be this. Earlier on, as illustrated, these are the clip that clips to your side panel. Okay, maybe you should illustrate again. Now for the side panel itself, this is the side panel. So assuming that you have mount center of the bracket, or should I say the tray itself, right, with 120mm fans, and there are 2 holes over here, you can make use of this. As you can see, there are holes at the top and at the bottom, so you can just clip it. See, it's fastened in place, pretty straightforward, and you can remove off by pressing this. You will just remove. Now if this bracket break, right, unscrew the screws here. You can change, which earlier on I told you there are spares, so these are meant for this. Back to the first package where I removed these 2 cover brackets, which is meant for your side panel or side tray. This was the package. You have an additional Velcro stripe with the U channel, which I showed you earlier on during the cable management section, where I mount this on the holes that is allocated. You can either put it this way or put it this way. A very neat thought, and I like this a lot. And you're given 7 zip ties. And the last part, which I show you, the enhanced graphic card support holder, where you have this. It comes in the package, but you will need to assemble them, and all the instructions can be found on the instruction manual on how to mount it, as there are two modes to plug this bracket. Let me just go through. See, so this installation tool is meant for the EATX, which I've done on my case earlier to show you how this mechanism works, and the other one, which is the standard ATX mounting. So there are 2 different installations. Do take note when you're installing this GPU support bracket. I am totally impressed with this O11D Evo XL coming from Lian-Li. I've seen some of the functions and features bring back from the past to this case. Now, I've been using Lian-Li case since 2009, and things like the motherboard tray removable. This is not the first time that I've seen them doing it, and they brought this back, which is good. Reason being, right, when you are doing troubleshooting on your PC components, If this is not removable, you will need to troubleshoot inside the case itself, which is sometimes accidentally you might hit into something and such, which is not very practical, I feel. And when you remove this whole tray out, right, it's just like a test bench. You can swap out components as you diagnose what is the problem of your PC components, and to test it on the motherboard tray, which is outside of the case, which is good. Next thing I'd like to talk about are all this PCIe slot. Now, this PCIe slot has a very neat function whereby it catches the card without having you to screw the card on this bracket itself. As I showed you, this is magnetic. Now, this mechanism is not new either. Lian-Li, in fact, they are the first one who actually done this on one of their particular cases, which is full aluminium, and they brought this back. I'm glad they have done this. And next, the space of the case itself is so big. My goodness, this is good to feeder and to, you know, build your parts in, not an issue. And with this, say, right, bonus point, the top, the bottom, and the side, you can mount 420mm rad simultaneously, as in that you can place all, and to make use of them when you do custom water cooling. The only thing you need to take note is only the side over here. As I show you, the space might not be that much. You can flip the side tray. See, when you flip, right, it gives you more space. So placing placing three 420mm rads, right, not an issue. And I've even show you what they have done on the calculations on the motherboard tray and the gap over here when you're placing a 420 liquid AIO. There are ample of space where it doesn't hit your RAMs at all. Carefree, you can place how tall the RAM is, not a problem. Besides this, I like to swivel to the back. Now, this pillar here, which is swivel to do your cable management, this again is not the first time Lian-Li have done this. Alright, not on the O11 family, but on another case which is aluminium. They brought this back. Good function. I like this. Similar to this swivel here. Right. Now, additional to this swivel, to this hard disk cage over here, you can just plug and play. Reason being, right, there are already ready cables, as in like the SATA and the power source. SATA, they have already done the cable management for you. So minimum cable management is been done. And this, I believe, they have taken off from the Lian-Li 2 case, where you have the separate unit as you need to purchase to have this hot swap connector. But for this case itself, right, they have included in not one but two. So this is something which, you know, impressed me another. And also on the Velcro stripe, another neat touch. Okay, as I was mentioning that they have made use of, okay, this is actually the SSD mounting areas whereby you mount the rubber grommets, which I showed you on the accessory to plug over here. So with that, right, they came out with this idea whereby this U bracket here, okay, let me just remove this. Now this U bracket here has a function. It grabs hold of the cable and to plug in place with all these holes over here to your desire, and you can even flip it. Another well designed. Alright, speaking about the price point of this case itself, right, now though it's actually at a premium, but I find that it's worth purchasing it if you are really into water cooling, custom water cooling, and if you are using very high-end component. This case is a neat touch. Hope you guys have actually enjoyed what I've shared with you. And with this said, I'd like to thank Lian-Li to have provided me this case. It's an honor to do the review on this case, where I see all the past features you have bring this back. I'm happy to see this. And also to Block Soda to have done the arrangement. Thank you very much for your effort to send this big case to me. And for those of you who are actually new to my channel, welcome to my channel. If you like my content, do remember to subscribe and to click on the notification bell button. Till then, take care, goodbye, see ya.